What's up, y'all? Coming back here for another review. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is your boy Nahomi, aka the Film God. Today we are reviewing the film Escape Room. Came out earlier this year, so let's just jump right into it. So, those of you who watched my previous review of Glass, you notice how I said I liked when movies start off with a bang, and how it's very vital to make sure you're there early, just in the event something like this happens. So the start of this movie begins with the final contestant being in the last escape room, which is pretty impressive. I like how the aesthetics of this movie is done. You see the character fall in from above and immediately thrown into a situation where he has to find his way out of it. So I really enjoyed the first bit of this movie. The next transition in Escape Room is typical of most films, to be fair. You see the lives of three of the main characters for the audience to sort of get a sense of who they are, what their personalities are like, and build that impression in your head how these individuals might fare in a game as intense as the Escape Room. Three of these contestants receive puzzle boxes to unlock, which in turn have invitations in them once they're solved. Come to a mindless escape room facility for a chance to win $10,000, y'all. After this, we journey into the belly of the beast. The remaining contestants we are introduced to confirm they're having received the same invitations to take part in this experiment to win a cash prize. I'd like to take some time here to reiterate that I really come to appreciate the aesthetics and sets in this film, or films in general. I'm a fan of the decisions being made about lighting, camera filters, and lenses when it comes to shooting a movie scene, and they do it really well here. Jumping back into this, we learn very soon the waiting room they're in is in fact an escape room when our main character Ben tries to leave for a cigarette and accidentally breaks a handle and sets the game in motion. Players are engaged in the game when the most seasoned among them alert them to look for clues to solve the puzzle. Now this is good storytelling because each player throughout this film come across clues that in turn give us a glimpse into their lives prior through flashbacks. Even if they tend to be tedious, I enjoy them because if they're done well, the audience will in turn be more invested. In this scene, I love how they come across these clues and try to implement them in the game, only instead of de-escalating the situation, see they have to deal with an even bigger challenge with the room delving further underground and becoming an oven for them to be cooked alive in. That aspect of this game is truly terrifying, but in the end they prevail by working together as the game intended. So if you're paying attention, you'll recall I said that they'll drop in flashbacks to aid the contestants in their game. This also indicates the corporation behind this debacle have chosen these few for a reason. The specificity of the clues tells us that much, almost like the film Saw. These victims are not randomly selected. So the intricacy you see as the observer of the current room that resembles a frozen lake leaves you to wonder how in the hell is your average passerby supposed to figure out this enigma of a game. And to add insult to injury, with each passing moment the room temperature drops only a single jacket to share amongst themselves. So just like the former room, the stakes start to rise when a contestant by the name of Danny falls into the lake after an explosion lets off beneath him. Another indication that, of course, the people watching, the big brother if you will, are trying to move the game further along to create that static, tense atmosphere for the players to be motivated. Kind of like that JT verse, hurry up cause we're taking too long. But it ends up working. They retrieve the key and get the hell out of Dodge. With each introduction to a new room, you can't help but be impressed. I feel like a broken jukebox at this point, having said this for the third time, but I'll only be redundant if I feel the time calls for it. And in this instance, it's more than appropriate. The reason why it's impressive is the fact this room called the Upside Down is built inside of an elevator shaft. And the lengths they have to go to disentangle and unravel the clues is suspenseful. And with each section of the floor falling away, makes the anxiety almost palpable. especially because, a lot like musical chairs, a theme brilliantly apt for this room, by the way, the situation becomes more dire each time the music stops. As expected, unfortunately, we lose our second contestant and the remaining players advance to the next stage of the game. The stage we stumble upon next finally illuminates why the players at hand have been elected to participate in this game. The triage room provides medical records for each of the victims who have, by one way or another, cheated death, making it at this point a very intriguing and integral part of the storyline, finally giving us some meat to chew on, raising eyebrows about what's really going on. The countdown this time around signifies the urgency the Game Master, aka Big Brother, is trying to instill. The way it's tailored too is so horrifying. The timer is displayed on a small television set with footage in the backdrop being sick and grotesque surgeries from various hospital wards. Jason, in a state of haste, inadvertently kills Mike when he discovers a clue that indicates a fast heartbeat is a key to freedom. Racing against the clock, Jason uses the defibrillator before a poisonous gas fills the room. Upon discovering a slow heart pace is the key as opposed to a fast one, Jason manages to free the group, leaving Zoe behind to suffocate. Ben and Jason enter the next room with optical illusions and strobe lights. A confrontation ensues over Jason's disregard for the deaths of the other players. After the dispute, they see a hatch with the letters open on it, and learn soon by the dizzying effects that it has been doused with a hallucinogen. And in order to survive, a magazine cut out like something out of a ransom movie instructs them to search for an antidote. Now, when viewing this scene, you get the feeling the room is spinning because of the poison in their system, but in actuality the room is physically spinning, and the way it's captured on film is masterful. You then see a switch open up when Ben hits the walls with a syringe inside, which looks as if it had enough for both, but Jason tries to kill Ben anyway, which leads to Jason's demise. Which leads us back to the beginning of the story, with Ben falling in from above to a sophisticated study room. Now, you would think, based on what we've seen so far, Ben dies due to being crushed to death, but he solves the puzzle and survives. A cut to a scene shows us that meanwhile, during all this, employees of the corporation dressed in hazmat gear come to collect the bodies in the hospital ward, but are caught off guard when Zoe, who miraculously survived the poisoning, incapacitates them both through the usage of an IV stand. Cutting back to Ben, we see a makeshift control room with a panel and a huge screen with multiple camera angles for the game master to watch. And when he explains the game setup is there for wealthy viewers to bet on who survives, the expression on Ben's face is priceless. And by this point in the film, one would have guessed that would have been the case. Any cinephile who has a healthy relationship with film have come to that conclusion as well. Carry on, we see Zoe get the jump on the Game Master as he tries to execute Ben. And with both of them fighting together, they manage to kill him. But the irony being the Game Master himself was a player too, for the billionaires back in this enterprise to watch whether he survives as well. So we hit the end with Ben and Zoe escaping the escape rooms. See what I did there? Get it? Get it? Anyways, because of his injuries, Ben is recovering in a hospital with Zoe going back to the Minus facility, only to find the place has been scrubbed clean of all the traps and rooms, so there's no evidence to go on, leaving Zoe left to look as if she imagined the whole predicament. Later on, we see the two alive and well, having seemingly moved on with their lives, only to see Zoe hasn't let go and has worked out who might be behind the corporation creating these games. What we witness next is reminiscent of those no one is safe kind of endings, like Final Destination or any other slasher film for that matter. The film concludes with what appears to be a new game with all new players, but in reality, it's a simulation to determine the success rate of solving the puzzle. And it's just a reaffirmation of the size and scope behind this enterprise, which isn't a bad way to draw this film to a close. Overall, if I had to grade this film, I'd say it's a B. The main takeaway for me was the sinuous nature of the film. Each room had its aesthetics, that's appealing to the eye, and I can appreciate that where the storytelling was lacking. And upon hearing there was a sequel in the works, I was actually somewhat excited. We haven't had a decent saga to the horror suspenseful thriller genre that's worth its salt. So in the interim, they should work out the kinks and provide us a good product enough to live up to its name. That being said, your boy is signing off. Please, if you can, support the channel, hit that PayPal, share, like, and subscribe. I'm out.